Willie D. Live.
You got a interesting story behind your name,
Hmm.
Big U.
Right.
Can you share that story with my audience?
I don't know the story.
The story you told about why you didn't want to carry your government name. Uh, you were saying something about your dad and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, my dad is Eugene, Big
Right.
U. And basically, well, it's kind of a lot of stories in one. I didn't want to take the name after the Italians because a lot at the time that we was picking gang names, one of those was, it was, everybody was taking Italian names, Capone this, Capone that, associating with that.
Right.
And my pops, when I of course know my pops being, he was a street dude in Chicago, coming from Atlanta, coming from Mississippi to Chicago,
Right.
and he was Big U. He was Eugene, and I kind of just took that because Big U is nothing but Big Eugene,
Right.
and my dad is Big Eugene.
Right.
So it was a lot of factors that played into that on how I had chose that name. You know what I mean? I kind of like when I be talking, I feed off of all of those, and they kind of feed into
Right.
So it was a lot of things associated with the other names that I have
Right.
because I'm called by a lot of different names. I don't know if you know that.
Well, I think I heard that you had about three or four different
Yeah,
names or
3 or 4
something like
names.
that. Pardon me for not digging, but what are the other ones?
Well, Big Draws.
Big Jaws,
Big Draws.
Big Draws.
Big Draws.
Now, we got to stop right there. I can't let that slide. Explain Big Draws.
Well, it's Big Draws. It's kind of like, it's funny because I look at the internet and I hear all these different reasons where the name came from, but it actually came from one of my homeboys named Peanut. And, and we was bagging on each other.
Okay.
And I told him at that time, I said, this is how it actually came. We was at 59th Street School. We was bagging. And when we was playing basketball, so I just had these short pants on. But back in the days, you remember the Magic Johnson short pants?
Right.
Them suckers would cut your nuts.
Right.
Well, I wasn't wearing them things.
Yeah.
So I had, boxers.
Right.
So my boxers would hang down past the
Where's your shorts?
past the shorts.
Right.
Because I wasn't wearing them tight ass things hugging your nuts. You remember? So we bagging, and that's where the name came from. And actually, we was in somebody else's neighborhood. So this is how I started using it. And I was on the run from the police at the time. This had to have been like 88, 89. And we was bagging each other. And so about a week later, I get pulled over by the police. We on a mission. And we hit the corner, the police pull us over. It's me, Sleep, Nutty, and one more homie. We on some bullshit. When they pull us over, we kind of like, whoa. And, back then you couldn't have no blowers. So they get this ready to search the car, and the police is asking us our name. Of course, I don't want to tell him I'm Big U, because that's going to trigger a whole nother thing. So I say, I'm Big Draws. And the man say, what? He say, Big Draws. And he say, back in drawers?
Yeah.
And the man literally fell on the ground.
Right.
Left laughing. He called the other police over there. And he said, man, tell him your name. So it became this joke. And they ended up like, man, your name really Big Draws? And they let us go.
Right.
And then when I tell you, that was the perfect time to get let go.
Yeah.
So that's how the names. I was dealing with the homies like, man, I felt like I was so hard. I'm like, nigga, I'm so hard I can make any name hard.
Yeah.
Like that's how arrogant I was back at that time. You know what I mean? Like, nigga, I could call myself Glasses, and they gonna say niggas gonna want to be called Glasses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was really kind at that time because I was coming like Warner Will Skating was still going, and it was. I think the height of Warner Will Skating for us was from 81, 84, 80, and then 88 was kind of like when it started dropping off. We got a lot older, and then people still knew the name, and I wanted to be called something else because I was on the run. So I kind of just stuck, and I just felt so arrogant, man. I didn't care what I was. I can call whatever I said. It was gonna be.
That's what it
That's
was.
what it's gonna be.
So what were the other names?
Hannibal. Hannibal was a name that Captain Malik and well, I kind of got that name between Captain Malik, Shahid, um, and rest in Captain Shahid, and just the brothers in 27. When I had came back, I started studying Islam, back in Islam when I was coming out of Minnesota, and I want to say '89. I had read Malcolm X autobiography. I had like about 25 pounds. I was taking from Minnesota to Chicago to sell. And on the ride, I started reading Malcolm X autobiography. And it was at that point, reading Malcolm X autobiography, made it to Chicago. I cut my hair off, and I stayed in Chicago just reading and studying and just getting back into it. And at that time, me and Lil Fee, who was on death row, was talking a lot. And Loke was going through what you call Lil Fee. Loke was going through his transformation and reading. And we started reading, and he had gave me the book called "100 Years of Lynching." That book and Malcolm X autobiography had a transforming effect on who I was and who I would try to be to today. Um, and it was at that time, man, that I had really took on a different mentality, and I was attempting to take on a different mentality at that time. And I stayed home, and I flew my wife and my oldest son to Chicago. I stayed in Chicago for about 6, 7 months. I was still on the run from another little case, and I just stopped. I wasn't hustling no more. But in that time period, I had probably amassed maybe like about maybe $30,000, $40,000 in a month in bills, maybe more than that, and just all the stuff I was buying and doing it because I was grinding. And I was in Minnesota real strong at that time. My brother Miles and a couple of homies, we was all grinding out there. So I stopped everything and I split all the stuff I had. And I flew everybody. Everybody came. All the homies who I was hustling with came to Chicago. We sat in Chicago and I put it on the table and like, here, this what I'm doing. I ain't doing it no more. Miles came and got his, went back. Um, Belly, a couple of my homies, my partners, want to say their names. They came, did they, because they all did time already. And then I left, but then and I stayed in Chicago. Then I think it was another traumatic thing happened. Mump got killed. My big homeboy, Lil Mump, Poochie, he got killed. And it was an uproar and how he got killed. And the homie was like, man, come home, we it's on. And I'm fighting with that and then still studying. And I eventually went back. My big homie Keystone, rest in peace, called me. He like, man, come on, you gotta come back. You gotta lead this charge. So I was fighting with that, still dealing with that. I was still like 22, 23 maybe. I'm not even sure how old I was. I ended up going back home and that happened. We and then this is when I meet, and I'm about to get the name. I meet Captain Shahid, Captain Malik. I'm in the hood, and the mosque, the temple was on 43rd and Crenshaw, if I remember at the time. 43rd and Western, if I remember correctly. Because when I do these interviews, I always have certain things I am. My memory don't serve me correctly, but I remember it's on Western, and in the 40s, which is strongly the 40s now. We get over there, Captain Shahid, and they bringing the Grape Streets in, and we kind of having spats with the Grape Streets at the skating ring and all over. So the homies mounted up. We end up going over there like having like a man to man off with the nation, and that's when I met Captain Malik, Captain Shahid, um, um, rest in peace, Khaled,
Yeah,
and that's when I met
Kelly Mom. Yeah.
Khaled Muhammad, and we was at like, man, they can't be in our neighborhood. And they was like, nah, brother, we over here trying to service the community. And they spilled, and I was still young, and I just started studying. So we ended up working out an equal medium. And after that, they made it their point. Captain Malik made it a point that he had to come find me. And I think about a week later, they was in the hood talking about they looking for Big U. Where's Big U? And I kind of embraced it, went over there, started going to Temple 27. We had Study Hall 27, and it was Temple 27 too, but he had Study Hall 27 was in the 20s, and we was go over there and train. So that was kind of me, moving in. And then another major influence for me at that time was a Suju Muhammad, Steve Muhammad, who was my instructor from BKF. So he was a major influence in me, really kind of, moving in that. And I was given the name Hannibal Muhammad. But what eventually led me going to prison was the fact that I had so many bills and I had no way of paying them bills. And I just didn't want to sell drugs no more. So still being young and dumb, I said, well, you know what? Let me just rob the drug dealers. And so that's what I ended up doing. That's how I ended up, even after I started studying Islam, end up going to prison and doing the 13 years.
So how you get in a jam robbing the dope dealers?
Well, it was a setup. It was a play. We was set up. One of the brothers who rest in peace had, I guess, it was in a pinch, and he set us up, set the play up. We ended up. It was undercover police officers, so they said it was a drug buy, but it really was never a drug buy. It was a robbery from our point of view from day one. It was never a drug buy. We showed them the money, spent off with the money, and they come back to do the robbery. That's pretty much how we did it for years.
Man, how much of the drug and gang culture in LA are LA law enforcement responsible for?
How much of it? Well, really, to be probably, I would say, a good 70 to 80% of it. In all kind of ways. It's like it's more than one way that you can view it, and that's the reason why the number is so high, because you can't sell it unless they authorize you to sell it. And then you at one time in that period, there was crews of sheriffs who was robbing all the drug dealers, and we see that right now. What the evidence is right now is what we see on the internet, where these guys are able to go with impunity, commit crimes, put it on the internet, and they don't get charged, they don't get in trouble. And what we see is happening is actually the same way, because how do they control our neighborhoods now? They control our neighborhoods because they control these phones, and they control the information that's going into our neighborhood because it's now being dispensed through the internet and through the phones. So it's the same drug. Now how they getting money? You got all these kids is thinking and seeing they can get 3,000-4,000, being as ignorant as they can be on the internet, and you get likes and follows, and you can make $2,000-3,000 a month in doing that. Well, liken that to how drugs was coming into LA. I was looking at, and I'm switching subjects again. I was looking at, if you go back to the NAFTA agreement. So in my era of selling drugs, which goes back to the 80s, we really didn't deal with the Mexicans as much as they deal with the Mexicans now. When they started the NAFTA agreement, after 84, 88, drugs was mainly started coming in through Mexico. Before that, drugs came in from the port. So most of our drugs came in through Colombia, through the Panama Canal, and it would get through the water. So he was coming over here. So all the heroin came in through the water, all of that came in. And then at some point, when they started dealing with Mexico, all the drugs started coming in actually through Mexico, which started making different places like here, Texas, Arizona, and all of them are connections for major drug trade. But in the early 80s, it came in through the ports. So we didn't really deal with the Hispanics or Mexicans that's coming out like we did now. It was really basically the white boys, the people in authority in LA who really had the connections to the ports.
Gatekeepers.
The gatekeepers. And that changed. And then when you seen that change happen, you seen the rise of the Mexican cartel, you seen the rise of the Mexican mafia, you seen the rise of all of that. And because, like I say, early era, all the G's, they really didn't have to go through Mexico or deal with that. It was basically coming through the ports.